The Minnesota Twins bullpen is a mess right now. The starting staff having so many injuries certainly isn't helping things. That's, I think, putting some more pressure on the bullpen, uh, in addition to just not being a very good bullpen, to be honest. So let's talk about, what are some things that they can do right now to help out this bullpen? One of the first things I want to do is take a look at how I would rank these guys two different ways. So under this GMLI tab, that's a Fangraphs terminology, basically. That's the leverage index for when a player enters the game. So, as a reliever, you may pitch yourself into higher leverage than you entered in. So I like this one for looking at how a bullpen is being managed. As you can see, Rocco has been giving Pagan, and this is for the whole season. So, recent trends may look a little differently. Tyler Duffy is a guy who everybody's kind of looking to DFA. That's sort of part of what the conversation we're having here. What would it have to look like to get the Twins to the point where they might move on from Tyler Duffy? I don't want to see Tyler Duffy out there either. I don't want to see him around, but when you look at kind of what the other options are, and we're going to get into that, I understand why he is sticking around to this point. But there needs to be an exit strategy. They need to get a plan in place to start getting some more arms up here. And, a lot of the guys who are pitching AAA, Moran, Cano, to a certain extent, McGill, are already up. So again, this is how they use. This is my personal ranking of how confident I feel in each of these guys. And confident is a very term I'm using very loosely, because I think this dude, Yohan Duran, is the only guy I'm actually confident in. But anybody else other than Duran, I don't feel good about them when they're in there, to be honest with you. Even when they're pitching well, it's hard to feel super confident in these guys. Some of the depth pieces first to keep in mind, the guys in the picture, on the IL are Coulomb, Stashak, Romero, and Alcala. We'll talk more about Alcala in a moment. But I don't know that these other Coulomb was pitching well. These other guys would certainly help if they were healthy, but they're not going to really elevate this bullpen. They might make you feel better about the bottom half. And then kind of the AAA depth guys. What are some other options on getting this bullpen fixed, really, in the top end? Potentially someone entering the top end of this bullpen. And the easiest way to do that would be to look toward internal guys who internally, nobody we have to go get, nobody have to go trade for, could possibly elevate this bullpen. And I do think there are two guys legitimately who could do that. Jorge Alcala being one of them. He is on a rehab assignment. Record scratch. A bunch of breaking news has gone down while I'm trying to edit this video. Unfortunately, Jorge Alcala has had a setback. Basically, he's experienced tightness in his elbow, so he is now back on shutdown. Basically, his rehab assignment's back on hold. We can't expect him anytime soon now. That is a huge bummer. Also, Cody Stashak is going to have season-ending surgery. Another huge bummer. Jarrell Cotton is back up with the Twins, so that's good. Hopefully he can take advantage of his opportunities. But yeah, just very deflating that those two guys are still going to be hurt. And, that just stresses even more that this team, regardless of what else is going on, they need so many arms. So some of these guys I'm going to mention who might not excite you much, take that into account. But Matt Cantorino, I really think he could be special out of the bullpen. If you're tasking me, like, find me another Yohan Duran, find me another guy in this system who could enter the big leagues and be a primo relief pitcher, Matt Cantorino is the guy that I think of first. He is a starting pitcher. He's been starting in Double-A, but it is not a lot of innings. As you can see here, 34 and a third innings this year in Double-A, and that's with him being healthy. So he's sort of on pace to throw around 100 innings this year, as if he stays as a starting pitcher throughout the whole year. And you can see it hasn't been all great. The 1.83 ERA is tremendous. Clearly, 13.1 K is outstanding, but 5.8 walks per nine. I really think that I'm not saying he can't make it as a starting pitcher. I don't want to paint it like that, but I think there's a narrow enough path that Matt Cantorino is going to make it as a starting pitcher, and in combination with that, a big enough need in the bullpen at the major league level. And with the Twins finding themselves in this situation where the AL Central is basically being handed to them right now almost, I really think the logic is there to say, all right, let's, move Matt Cantorino up to AAA into the Saints, put him in the bullpen there, give him a handful of appearances, get him used to getting out of the bullpen, and put him on the fast track to getting him on the major league roster. So he's kind of I put saviors in quotes because, I don't know that these guys would necessarily be able to save the whole bullpen. Cantorino, if he can smoothly transition, I really think this would be a hugely different dynamic in this bullpen. And I'm going to go through these options in the basically ease of addition. Next up, but outside of internal guys, would be free agents. You don't have to trade anything. You just have to convince these guys, give enough whatever they're looking for, whether it's opportunity, money. Shelby Miller has been pitching in the Yankees AAA system very well, and he recently opted out to look for a better opportunity. I think he basically, I'm sure, had a conversation with the Yankees on his odds of getting promoted, and they probably were realistic about it. And he said, I'm going to opt out. I'm going to look for a different job. As you can see, a 1.71 ERA, 0.91 whip, 10.7 K per nine, and 2.6 walks per nine in 21 innings in relief, again, with the Yankees AAA affiliate. A guy who hasn't well in the majors for quite a while in Shelby Miller, but that's very intriguing to me. I'm certainly intrigued, and those numbers are better than, a lot of these other AAA guys have pitched. So I think he could come in and kind of figure into either the back end and then maybe work him up to the middle. It's kind of similar to like a Trevor McGill, to where you just bring him up. If he starts to gain momentum, you start kind of using him differently. And we'll see from there. But again, the thing with Miller is he's free. He's out there as a free agent looking for an opportunity. And, putting myself in his shoes, where else would you want to be than with the Twins? Lots of opportunities in this bullpen. And it's a first place team too. Not many other opportunities like that are out there. So Shelby Miller is a name that I came across as well. A very familiar name I came across as well was Tyler Clippard, who has been pitching in Washington's AAA affiliate, which is the Rochester Red Wings. And teams are really good about this. If they have a guy in AAA who's like in his 30s, and they're not finding a path for him. If there's a major league team that's like, hey, we want to get Tyler Clippard, they're usually really good about just basically let him go for cash considerations, whatever. It's not going to take a lot to get a guy like that. And as you can see, he's pitching well, but not tremendous for the Nationals AAA affiliate. 3.13 ERA, 1.26 WHIP, 11 K per nine, 5.5 walks per nine. That's concerning. So he's a guy. Again, we remember him with the Twins a couple years ago. Pitched for I think Arizona last year. Wasn't really lights out. But I mean, honestly, if you ask me who I think might be better for the next 4 months or whatever, Tyler Duffy or Tyler Clippard, I'm probably going to say Clippard. Who's more likely to stay healthy? It's probably Duffy because he's the younger guy. I really think if you just called him up, you could get him for cash considerations, a non-prospect, whatever. Maybe there's even a guy, the Twins have a guy, a similar position player, and let's say a catcher on the Saints, and the Nationals are looking for catcher. You could figure something out to where you have an extra piece that you could send them. And again, Tyler Clippard's, much like Shelby Miller, not going to elevate the bullpen, but I think he could give you some security. And then the last one is a guy who would take something, and this is sort of what I was trying to avoid with this conversation. This conversation was mostly like, what can we do now? What can we do now about this bullpen? Not a month, not at the trade deadline. What can be done right now? Michael Givens is on the Cubs. I'm not sure that the Cubs would be interested in initiating any trades. A lot of sellers are going to wait until closer to the deadline to hope teams get desperate. But the Cubs are something like 7 games out of the wild card. Michael Givens is pitching fairly well. 3.22 ERA, a 1.34 whip, 12 K per nine, which is great, but 4 walks per nine. Guy who's kind of been inconsistent, a major league bullpen arm. Sometimes he looks like he could be a guy who could definitely help you in the end, in the Twins picture, not like a great bullpen end game, but, I would think he would slot in second if you got him right now, the way he's been pitching behind Duran. But the question, again, some of these guys are much easier just to go get. Obviously, these are internal. Givens, he's with the Cubs, not sure how motivated they'd be to trade him. And that's kind of the tricky thing right now is with that expanded wild card, there are only, I think, 9 teams that are more than 5 games out of the wild card picture right now. And most of those teams don't have any nice bullpen pieces. Not that Michael Givens is like a huge prize, but most of those teams have just terrible bullpens. Some of the nice pieces on those teams in the bullpens are guys they have multiple years of team control over and are cheap. So those teams that have no motivation to trade those guys. So it's tough. It's tough to try to really find immediate answers, and that's what the Twins need. They need to figure some of this stuff out now. This is a big problem. This is a huge problem, and this bullpen was built poorly. So when you start to take away some pieces, even if they're not the top guys, it really starts to get looking sketchy. So that's what I have for now. If you're not very excited about those options, I can't blame you. But here in early June, it's not that easy to make additions to your team. I think again, a lot of sellers are going to be waiting. A lot of teams are in the hunt still who you think might be sellers. So it's a kind of a waiting game at this point, but the Twins, they got to try to do something. So that's, those are some things that I threw out that I think they can do today. Let me know what you think. Thanks for checking this out. We'll talk again soon.